Hi, I'm Craig Emery. I'm here with Deanna Hoy, and we're here today talking to Dr. Thea Spitzer about her new book, The Power of Collaboration. Dee?
Thea, the value of collaboration between employees in the workplace has been around for a while. Is another book on collaboration needed?
Great question. The short answer is yes, and let me tell you why. People have known about the need for people to work together better in workplaces for a long time. And as a result of that, there's a lot of new resources out there and tools out there that are great, developed over the last 20 or 30 years. But the fact remains that when leaders are asked what are their biggest challenges that they'd like to fix in their company, collaboration is still one of the things that makes the short list. And when leaders and non-leaders both are asked what's keeping them up at night worrying and musing about things that are not going well, again, collaboration is one of the things that they most often say. So while there are a lot of great resources out there, there's plenty of room for additional new ones.
What's different about your book?
I would say two really big things that are different about my approach. The first thing is, at root of my book is something that I'm calling the collaborative ethos. And what that means, let me explain that to you in a bit of detail. What that means, in most organizations, employees are rewarded for being the ones who fixed the wicked problems. So they want credit for that. Employees want credit for coming up with the idea that becomes the next product, because again, that employee is being well rewarded for coming up with those ideas. In other organizations, though, it's different. Employees are rewarded for coming up with their best thinking, bringing it to the table, and knowing what is going to happen and what people are going to walk out of that room with is not my idea or your idea, Deanna. It's an amalgamation of everybody's best thinking turned into using their communal brains to come up with an even better approach. And they also know that's what they're being rewarded for. They start working that way and they realize how exciting it is to work with that way with employees and how much it really helps the organization's bottom line success. And they also realize how much more fulfilling it is to work in that kind of environment. So they become committed to it. And they're motivated to work with each other in a different way, and that creates a collaborative ethos. That's the first thing. The second thing is, we don't come naturally understanding the skills to work with other people. We need to be taught those skills just like we're taught other skills. So the second thing that's different about this book are the skills that I offer in how to work with other people.
This concept of collaborative ethos and your general approach to collaboration, how did you develop them?
Well, the building blocks came from work that I did with companies as a consultant in Silicon Valley for a number of years. I noticed and experienced how different their approach is to other companies outside of Silicon Valley and how similar their approach is to each other. They've kind of accidentally, naturally created a way for employees to work together that's affecting their bottom line success. I pulled those best practices together with my expertise on collaboration, and I've created what I'm calling the Silicon Valley approach to collaboration. But I didn't stop there. I went out and vetted it with 28 leaders who work in companies like Facebook and Google, Intuit and Kaiser, and many other companies that you've heard of and some that you have not heard of. And the commonality is how they are doing the work between people together, how they're how they're fostering a climate for employees to work together. And that's where it came from, Craig.
Mm-hmm. Who's this book for? Would it be for me if I was the leader of an organization? Would it be for me if I was an employee without managerial responsibilities?
Another great question. A lot of books are written for a narrow audience. They might be written for senior leadership or HR. One of the differences for this book is that it's written for all of those audiences. It's written for senior leadership. It's written for middle management, also for employees who don't have management responsibilities, HR, management consultants, and also students in universities learning about being managers in businesses and in nonprofits. And the way that I make it applicable to all of them is that I've packed this book with applications. What I mean by that is, as a reader is reading, I've made it an individualized journey for each reader. I ask them to think about a concept and capture their thoughts in a workbook as they go. And in some cases, I actually ask them to pause and go out and try something with other employees before they go on reading. And then I ask them to gather all that in a workbook. The last chapter of the book is oriented to helping them make sense of their learnings that they've captured along the way. And not only so that they can be different at collaboration when they leave the room, but that they can have some first steps to helping their organization be different. So while those first steps will be different if they're a CEO than if they're an employee without management responsibilities, the last chapter helps them figure out what are the right next steps for them as an individual to help their company.
Is your Silicon Valley approach to collaboration applicable to other types of organizations, such as nonprofits or governmental agencies?
And the answer to that is also yes, Dee. The examples that I use throughout the book are from for-profit companies, corporations in Silicon Valley that those 28 leaders work in and with. But what I do is I devote a chapter towards the end of the book to bringing it all together. I use a real live organization that naturally embodies the principles and the practices that I am putting in this book, and I show how they do it. And I deliberately chose not to choose an organization like Cisco or Google for that example. I wanted an organization so that people outside of Silicon Valley, people clearly outside of tech industry, people outside of for-profits, people in nonprofits or governmental agencies, I'm hoping this example will make them see that all of these activities and practices are just as applicable in their organizations. And the organization that I picked to do that is the Golden State Warriors, the NBA basketball team from the California Bay Area. And I'm hoping, even if you're not a basketball fan, even if you're not a sports fan, I think you're going to enjoy this chapter and get excited seeing it applied in a real organization so that you can apply it to yours as well.
That concept of collaborative ethos sounds really intriguing, and I can't wait to read this book. Seems like it would be an interesting read, learning how to create our own collaborative ethos in our own workplace and organization. Thank you for your time today, Thea.
Thank you, Dee and Craig. I really enjoyed being here with you today talking about the book.